Hi, another highly acclaimed film from the last year that I caught up with finally is Censor, co-written and directed by Prano Bailey-Bond. It's her her directing debut, and it's the story of a young woman working for the British Board of Film Classification in the mid 1980s, amid the video nasty scandal of unregulated, extremely violent and gruesome horror movies being in circulation. She's tasked with watching movies, making notes about how they should be classified or edited if need be. But that, along with her troubled past of having a sister who disappeared when she was very young, start to merge together in her mind, not helped by the people with whom she comes into contact. The film has had something of a cult success. It's been quite highly acclaimed, and I was rather startled that its executive producer is the horror critic and author Kim Newman. It was startling because the film is very, very bad. And Newman is normally quite on the money, as far as I'm aware, with his criticisms. Something that struck me straight off is that every scene is lit as though it's a horror movie. Now, it is a horror movie, but you have a scene set in a normal office or set in a normal suburban restaurant, and it's lit and framed and shot as though Jason Voorhees is going to burst through the wall with a machete, like he's the Kool-Aid man. Um, so already it has this weird wrong atmosphere where there's no baseline of reality. With a good horror film, you need a baseline of reality. Even in something like a gothic version of Dracula, you have the solicitor going to meet his new client. You have something very normal and standard and believable that even in a period setting, a regular audience today can watch and think, yes, I connect with that. I can see how that would happen in a normal situation. Here, it's all immediately strange, immediately weird, immediately divorced from reality. And it's the old saying, as has been cited on the podcast many times, you've got to have reality. Otherwise, the audience can't invest in it. Um, I have some notes here. They're not very many, but I did write them down. Um, there's a scene early on where the main character is being told by her parents that the missing daughter is being formally declared dead, and they've issued a death certificate, and they show it to her. This scene is set in a suburban restaurant when they're out for dinner, and the main character is appalled by this, and no, I don't want to have anything to do with this. And then the mother says, "Oh well, we can talk about it later. So, what are you going to have for first course?" And I don't know if that's supposed to be a joke because of the disconnect, or why would you even have that conversation in a public place? It's again, there's no baseline of reality. Um, as the film continues, and it has a very I don't know if it's warped or if it's just careless. Its attitude towards the way, or whether or not, rather, horror films affect the psychology of the viewer. Do horror films mentally damage people? Can they drive someone to kill? That is the whole idea behind the video nasty scare, that people watch these movies and they're inspired to do terrible things. Obviously, we know now that that's complete horseshit. But the film doesn't seem to know one way or the other because the character watches these movies and then starts to move towards some kind of insanity. But was it something that was already there? Was it something that was being triggered by watching these horror movies? One would think it would be obvious one way or the other because the film is clearly should be from the pro horror stance, but it's ambiguous enough to make you wonder, well, what is it they're actually trying to do? What are they trying to say? If Are they trying to be ambiguous about this? Because there isn't any ambiguity. If someone's insane, then they're insane. Jeffrey Dahmer's favourite film was Return of the Jedi because he loved the way the Emperor exerted his power over other people. If you're mentally damaged, you're going to find messages and secret codes in anything. Um, and towards the end of the movie, as the main character, and we've also already seen people involved in making horror movies are disgusting, despicable creatures, rapists, um, psychological manipulators, which again is weird, and it makes you wonder exactly what is trying to be said with this. The main character goes off to investigate a film shoot because she thinks that her younger sister is alive and involved in the film shoot and that she's going to be murdered as part of the film. I think the film is quite vague. And the ratio at the side of the picture shrinks so that it goes from being widescreen to being just old TV shape because these films were generally distributed on video in 4:3. But the problem is, if you're watching this on television, it's not 16:9, which is ordinary widescreen TV shape or ordinary mobile phone shape. It's actually a bit narrower than that. So as it gets smaller, you're actually just watching a little box of a picture surrounded by a huge black border, which suggests that the director, again, hasn't actually thought any of this through in any great detail. And again, it's some kind of artistic statement that she's finding herself involved in this in a horror movie, that she's becoming part of a horror movie. But this is very student level filmmaking. This is the sort of thing that you think of when you first start making short films. And then once you've actually figured out how to tell a feature-length story, you're actually doing something that's a bit more intelligent and a bit more mature and a bit more complex, rather than, ooh, horror movies. Are they good for you or are they bad for you? They're fine. It depends on your existing state of mental health. So the result is a film that is very poorly thought out, very adolescent in what appear to be its attitudes. What of them I can decipher. It rips off a lot of other work in terms of its visual style. Mandy, Panos Cosmatos' recent film, is ripped off a lot from this, and that's another film that has lots of weirdness and strangeness and ends with a man driving off into the wilderness with weird planets in the sky, but it starts with a baseline of reality. He works as a logger. His girlfriend works in a petrol station and reads fantasy novels. There's a normalcy to this. It's badly thought out, it's misconceived, it's quite poorly made, without the right, any real thought gone into what story and what concepts it's trying to present. It's a bad film, and I don't like attacking films that are the works of first timers because it feels like you need to give first timers a chance. Let them have a little bit of practice. I mean, even Stanley Kubrick said that his first film was rubbish, and that's why he kept it out of circulation for almost his whole life, because it was a practice movie. And I feel like the first film ought to be like your practice movie. But this one has been heavily promoted. It's been longlisted by BAFTA as Best British Debut of the Year. It's been widely acclaimed. I feel that it's in a position where it can withstand criticism from someone like me of saying, this is one of the worst films I've seen this year, and I don't want the director to work on any more films.